Good morning, it's today again. Welcome back to Joseph's Reserves. I'm Joseph and I store 20% of my income in the form of rare coins and precious metals. Today we're talking about the importance of including a surface stack. Most stackers don't even realize they're making this mistake and they actually think they're doing everything right. They're buying consistently and they're stacking long term. They're even making smart moves like trading into gold when it makes sense. But without realizing it, they slowly break the most important part of their stacking. And the reason I know is because I just did it. Congratulations to John Modrzejewski for getting to my comment section first in my last video. Thank you for all the support. Y'all go find John down below to start a conversation. So, a few months ago, I decided to start making some moves in my stack that on the surface looked like exactly what you're supposed to be doing. I traded some silver into some gold. I tightened things up. I was trying to be more efficient with how I positioned the ratios of my entire portfolio. And overall, I still feel very good about those decisions. I still think they were the right moves. But something started to feel off. Not immediately. It wasn't like I made the trade and immediately thought, that was a mistake. It was more subtle than that. It was something I noticed when I took a step back and really looked at my entire stack as a whole. Overall, my silver position felt a lot weaker because I had just traded a few hundred ounces, but then my gold position felt extremely strong, so I was happy with it. The thing is, it felt a little more out of balance. And that's when it hit me. I hadn't necessarily made a bad move, but I had drifted away from my own system. So in this video, I want to walk through a framework that I've talked about before, but now I'm seeing it from a little bit of a different perspective. I want to show you the difference between a surface stack and a deep stack, how trading can quietly push you out of a position, and why a lot of stackers end up in a situation where everything they own feels untouchable, even though that's the exact opposite of what you want. When you first get into stacking, it's easy to not think about this at all. Every ounce of silver is just an ounce. Silver is silver, and gold is gold. And everything just went into one pile. I personally would buy and just hold, and on occasion would sell or trade, but there wasn't really any deeper structure behind it. And that will work for a while, but eventually you start running into problems. You start realizing that not every piece serves you the same purpose. Some things feel easier to sell than others, and some things you hesitate to move. Some pieces you just want to keep forever. And when all of this is mixed together, it creates a whole lot of confusion. So over time, I started separating my stack mentally into two different layers. Not physically at first, just mentally, but then these two layers did start to take a physical form. But these two layers are my surface stack and my deep stack. The surface stack is what I've come to realize is your operational layer. That's the part of your stack that's meant to move. These are the ounces that you're comfortable with selling, trading, or using if you need to. This is your flexibility. It's your emergency fund. This is the part of the stack that allows you to actually do something when the time comes. And typically, this layer is made up of generic rounds, bars, duplicate coins, highly recognizable pieces, the things that can move easy and don't carry a lot of emotional weight. You won't hesitate with these, you don't overthink it. These are the tools. Then you have the deep stack, and it's completely different. This is your long term layer. These are the pieces that you don't want to touch. This is where you have date runs, the nicer coins, historical pieces, and the things you upgrade into. Anything that carries a little bit more meaning beyond just the metal content. And that doesn't mean just high premium. This could be a generic round that you just absolutely love. The thing is, it's the emotional connection. You could get a very high value historical piece that you're not really emotionally attached to that is a little bit easier to flip, and that might be a tool for you if you decide that's what you want to use it for. So this is more than just buy generics for your surface stack and buy something like Eagles for your deep stack. Me personally, I have a lot of Eagles that are additional dates outside of my date run that I use as my surface stack. The key idea here is that your stack is not just a pile of metal, it has a system. And like any system, it needs structure. Because without that structure, you don't know what to do when a decision needs to be made. You either hesitate when you should act or act when you should hesitate. And then here is where things started to go wrong for me. Like I said, I had been trading some silver into gold, and again, I think it was the right move overall. But the way I did it slowly started to break down my structure because I exclusively pulled from my surface stack to perform these trades. I had built up my surface stack only to the point to cover emergencies, and then I started trading nearly all of it. So now if I had an emergency, my deep stack would have to cover any expenses that happened. It wasn't really an issue of not having the silver to cover any emergencies, it was just the issue of what role that silver was playing. I didn't realize it at first, but my surface stack, the part that gave me that flexibility, was slowly drained, and as that happened, the silver that was left to shift into that role wasn't meant to fill it at first. So now, instead of having a clean separation between what I can move and what I should keep, everything started to feel like it was from the deep stack. And that created a big problem. Because now, if something came up, whether it's an opportunity, a trade, or an emergency, I didn't have a clear layer to pull from. I had to start digging into pieces I wasn't planning on touching, and that is where the hesitation creeps in. That's where the emotional decisions started to take over, and this is actually the exact situation a lot of stackers end up in, especially for those who are focusing heavily on building their deep stack at first. They go after the nicer pieces and the higher quality coins, the things that feel more meaningful, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. In fact, that's one of the best parts of stacking. But if all you do is build that, you lose the flexibility. Because when everything in your stack feels important, nothing is usable. And when nothing feels usable, you either freeze up or don't act at all, or you end up making the wrong decision under pressure. You sell something you didn't want to sell, or you miss an opportunity that you should have taken. When you wait too long, you can lose the advantage completely. And when I looked at my own stack, I realized how I had slowly moved into that same position. Not because I ignored the system, but because I had drifted away from it over time. And that's really the dangerous part about this. It doesn't feel like a mistake while it's happening, it just feels like you're making some normal decisions. One trade here, one adjustment there, and suddenly the whole structure is gone. To make things worse, as soon as I finished my last trade, literally driving home from that trade, I got into a car accident and actually had one of those emergencies where I had to dip into my silver to cover some expenses. And of course, that happened right after I traded my last ounce from my surface stack, and that is how I came to this whole conclusion that I need to have a much larger surface stack. It needs to cover any emergency expenses as well as cover any trades that might come up soon. So with that, I'm focusing a lot more right now on rebuilding my surface stack. That a little bit of it is what you're seeing right here in this video, a lot of generic ounces. That's what I'm focusing on at the moment. So right here I have all kinds of different types of generic silver. Of course, there's the 1 ounce rounds. The most popular are the buffaloes. I personally like the 5 ounce size, so I have these 5 ounce buttons and even a 10 ounce bar. I like the little chunky poured pieces like this right here, a 100 gram bar. 100 grams is 3.2 ounces. But I've been really liking picking up these types of pieces of silver, these poured or cast thick chunky pieces of silver that feel a little bit more dense and heavy in the hand than just a 1 ounce coin. That, and I've been spreading my variety a little bit more, going into the gram sizes. I've been liking the 5 gram size, 10 grams, and 20 grams, but that might be a little bit different depending on how your local coin shop sells those specific items. but definitely consider it as making a little bit more of a different way to divide or be divisible in your silver. But now I'm going to show you guys what I picked up this week. So every week I get paid. That means that my dollar cost average is 20% of every single paycheck every time I get it. So I bought this 50-gram round. It's a poured or cast round that has this skull, or I guess pirate design on it. I really like how it looks. It's nice and heavy and feels chunky. I mean, it's 50 grams and has a very similar diameter to a 1 ounce generic coin. So it's definitely just a really cool piece. YPS. I don't think I have anything else in my stack by them, but I'm probably going to be looking for their stuff in the future. I just really like how this one looks. So I say that I put 20% of my income into precious metals, and that is true. My 20% is normally $200, but with this last week, I actually got paid by YouTube, so I was able to take that up to $350. I also picked up this 2 ounce bar that is similar to my 1 ounce and 50-gram Monarch precious metal bars that I have. As you can see, the 2 ounce bar has the same profile as the 1 ounce. It's just made a lot thicker. So since I'm kind of liking the idea of this thick silver category of my stack, I kind of leaned toward this, and it feels really good. It's nice and heavy in the hand, and I just really like it. Speaking of thick silver, this is a thick silver pressed coin by Swiss of America. Believe it or not, this is actually 1 ounce of silver. It's about the diameter of a quarter, but with the thickness, it is 1 ounce of silver. Really cool looking piece. The shop that I went to had a few of these, so I was pretty excited to pick them up and maybe next week pick up another one, or if I just find them around, I might pick up a few. So here you can see the comparison with a buffalo round. The buffalo round, I believe, is 38 millimeters, and the Swiss of America is closer to 25 millimeters. It didn't quite fit in a quarter tube, so if I get a few of these, it'd be interesting to find a tube that it actually fits in. It's an exciting part of getting silver is kind of finding how each one can fit in its own kind of place within your stack or in a tube, and kind of filling up what you can however you can. So it's something I really enjoy about stacking, is just, I guess, playing with it and figuring out where it fits. Let me know how you think I did. For these 3 pieces of silver, it cost me $342. And this is just my way of building up my surface stack, again, to a place where it can cover some emergencies and to facilitate some silver to gold trades. I do have a silver to gold trade planned coming up at the end of April, so I'm excited to see where the gold to silver ratio moves from here. I believe it's going to be on its way down, but of course, just like anything, you have no idea what's going to happen until it does. So for me in my stacking journey, this phase that I'm in right now is not about building something new, it's about fixing something that I had drifted out of place. It's about rebuilding the foundation so that everything else can function the way that it's supposed to. And I think that that's something a lot of people can relate to. Even if you didn't consciously drift out of place, it might feel like the stack that you've built is not exactly how you want it to be. So making these small adjustments are possible. Because again, this isn't a mistake that happens all at once, it's something that happens gradually. And by the time you notice, you're already in it. So if you take anything out of this video, it's that you should not just focus on how many ounces you have, because the structure is what determines whether or not your stack actually works when you need it to. I just made my own line of coffee. Joseph's Reserves It's Today Again coffee. Most mornings aren't dramatic. They're quiet. You wake up, pour yourself a cup, and now you have a choice. Drift through the day or take hold of what's in front of you. That's really what this whole thing's about. Showing up, building good habits, staying disciplined in the small things. Whether that's stacking consistently, learning something new, or just being faithful with what you've been given. I put these words on every bag to remind myself first. Every morning is a gift. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, today. So take a breath, take a sip, and let's get to work. It's today again. You can now write me at Joseph's Reserves, 10160 Highway 242, Suite 800, number 401 in Conroe, Texas, zip code 77385. Make sure to include your information so I can write you back. If you like this video, make sure to go down and give it a thumbs up. Go down into the comments for any questions, comments, or to catch up with those in the community that you've met here. Share the video to anyone you think may like it and subscribe if you haven't already. But most of all, thank you so much for watching. And just remember, every ounce adds up, so no matter how small, just keep stacking.